If you've looked at World Eaters lists over the last few years, you'll have noticed that many of them include a lot of 8-bound and Exalted 8-bound, the army's equivalent to Possessed. They're fast, tough, heavy hitters who are all about melee combat. What's not to like? The Possessed Slaughterband is here to allow you to field a detachment laser focused on these guys, and the results are fine. If you'd like to read more about this detachment and the other, better ones, head over to goonhammer.com. Link in the description. Detachment Rule: Brazen Fury. World Eaters Possessed units from your army gain the Brazen Fury ability. In your opponent's shooting phase, each time an enemy unit has shot, a unit with this rule can make a Brazen Fury move if any of its models were destroyed by those attacks. This is a d6-inch surge move which must end as close as possible to the closest enemy unit except for aircraft, and you're allowed to move into engagement range. Like normal for surge moves, you can't do this while battle shocked or within engagement range of any enemy units, and you can only do it once per unit, once per phase. What this boils down to is 8-bound of all types get an equivalent to Blood Surge, though less good than the version Khorne Berserkers have in the Codex. Still, if you want to go heavy on 8-bound, having them be trickier to shoot at is a pretty good place to be. Only one of these enhancements is tied to the Slaughterband, the other 3 can be freely given to a Demon Prince. They're mostly just okay. Malicious Vigor lets the bearer's unit automatically make a 6-inch Brazen Fury move instead of rolling for it. It's a pretty much automatic pick. Killing Clarity generates a command point on a roll of 4 up each time the bearer kills a unit. That post-kill Clarity doesn't just work on melee attacks, so any other damage you do will suffice. Frenzied Focus lets the bearer crit on a 5 up with all their attacks. Again, this is all attacks, though that may not be super relevant. Given you can still get both lethal hits and sustained hits from your army rule, having the lethal sussy 5+ as an option here is pretty great. Violent Demise has your Demon Prince's Deadly Demise trigger on a 2-up, and causes an extra mortal wound on top of it. It's funny, I'll give it that. As you might suspect, the stratagems work primarily on possessed units. 2 of them cost 2 CP, so you'll want Demon Princes to keep them cheap. Demonic Resistance gives -1 to wound against one of your possessed units, which is always great, but pricey at that 2 command point cost. Demonic Strength is +1 damage against vehicles and monsters for Exalted 8-bound, and +1 damage against everything else for regular 8-bound. +1 damage is great, but make sure you're paying attention to the conditions here. Immortal Fury lets your possessed fight on death. It's great that it's automatic, but at 2 CP, it's spendy. Rapid Manifestation lets one of your Exalted 8-bound units deep strike outside of 6 inches of an enemy unit, but they can't charge afterwards. It's better to use Rapid Ingress on them so you can move and charge in your own turn, so this one's kind of a dud. Warp Stalkers lets one of your possessed units move through enemy units and automatically pass Desperate Escape tests. It might be good for positioning or charging past a screen. Horrifying Violence forces a Battle Shock test at -1 to all enemy units in engagement range with one of your possessed units. It's situational, but it's got its place. If you're playing this detachment, you want to go all in on 8-bound and Exalted 8-bound. It's the only detachment where you really want to run multiple Slaughterband, and he makes a good accompaniment to regular 8-bound and full-size squads, where he can bring back dead models. The 8-bound's aura makes them a valuable piece for getting the most out of Exalteds, and you can alternate using them to take out different targets. And while they don't get anything out of this detachment, it'll be a good idea to bring some Forge Fiends along too, cracking enemy transports so your 8-bound can get to the gooey guys inside. Now let's go over the strengths and weaknesses. Blood Surge. Getting a store brand Blood Surge move in your possessed is pretty solid, letting them get out of danger or surprising opponents who aren't ready for an out of phase move. Melee buffs. 8-bound love to kill standard marines with their Power Fist attacks, and they do pretty okay into Terminator targets as well, as long as they aren't forced to square up against damage reduction. Being able to get +1 damage against key targets helps keep your killing power where you need it, in a big way. Speed. Not necessarily maneuverability, but your units have a high movement characteristic, scouts, and the ability to just hit the ground running with some big turn 1 moves, setting up for turn 2 charges. Now unfortunately, the enhancements in this detachment are all kinda lackluster, especially when you compare them to the enhancements in other World Eaters detachments. Cost. 8-bound and Exalted 8-bound are pretty pricey while not being that durable, thanks to only having a 3-up, 5-up save. Support units. There's nothing here for your non-possessed units, meaning any backup you bring will be unsupported. Forge Fiends don't really care though. Ultimately, the Possessed Slaughterband is a cool idea bogged down by the changes to 8-bound datasheets. By toning them down, it makes this entire detachment a load less exciting. And while there are some cool rules here, they don't outweigh the downside of depending on Exalted 8-bound for your defense. That said, some drops in points could go a long way towards fixing this problem, and standard 8-bound are still plenty playable. While that detachment was disappointing, you know what isn't disappointing? goonhammer.com! Check us out for tutorials, tactics articles, and more. Support us on Patreon if you'd like, and subscribe to us here on YouTube to keep up with all the latest 40k analysis. I've been Strong Bad McReal Mad, and you're probably wondering how I type with power fists for hands. Thanks for watching.